All right, so today we are doing a deep dive into an ingredient that, well, it pretty much underpins the entire eye health industry. We're talking about lutein.
It absolutely does.
When you read a label, one promising support for macular health or protection from blue light, you are almost always looking at lutein as the foundation of that formula.
Mm-hmm.
And while the goal is simple, protect your vision, the actual journey this molecule takes, from where it's grown to how it gets absorbed, is surprisingly complicated.
It really is.
So today our mission is to translate all that complexity. We're going to give you the shortcut to being well-informed about what makes a lutein supplement high quality and, I guess most importantly, effective.
That's the perfect way to frame it. I mean, lutein powder is, at its core, a concentrated form of a carotenoid. It's a yellow pigment that you find all over in nature.
Okay.
In the supplement world, though, it's overwhelmingly derived from natural sources, usually a very specific marigold extract. And it goes beyond just supplements now, too. You see it in functional foods, even high-end cosmetic formulations.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, we're going to unpack that whole value chain, all the critical factors that determine a product's integrity, starting right with the biological payoff for you.
The biological role of lutein is fascinating because it's so targeted. It's primarily valued for supporting what we call ocular health, especially its contribution to macular pigment optical density, or MPOD.
Right, POD.
Think of it like a specialized internal shield against things like oxidative damage and glare in the retina. But ocular health is a pretty broad term. Can we get more specific? What's actually happening in my eye if I take this?
That's the key question, isn't it? The biological rationale, it all starts in the macula, which is the central, most sensitive part of your retina.
Okay.
The pigment in the macula is made up of lutein, zeaxanthin, and a metabolite, mesozeaxanthin. And what's so unique is that lutein and its siblings, they act as this dual defense system. First, they're a literal optical filter.
A filter for what exactly?
They absorb high-energy, short-wavelength light, the blue light we hear so much about, before it can reach and damage your photoreceptors.
So it's like having a pair of internal sunglasses that are just always on.
Precisely.
Oh.
And that leads to the second function. Because they're absorbing all this light energy in a very high-demand, metabolically active area, they also function as powerful antioxidants.
Ah, okay.
They neutralize the free radicals that are created by all that light exposure and oxygen consumption, which prevents oxidative stress that can damage cells over time.
So it's both a physical shield and a chemical defense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And lutein, specifically, it gathers in the outer regions of the macula, while its cousin, zeaxanthin, is more concentrated right in the very center, the fovea. And this specialized distribution is what makes the synergy between them so critical.
Right, and here's where that nuance kicks in, which the sources really highlight as being critical for effectiveness. We almost always hear about lutein and zeaxanthin together. If lutein is already doing so much heavy lifting, why is that pairing so important? Is it just because they cover different parts of the same shield?
That's exactly it. They're synergistic because they're spatially organized. If you imagine the macula is a target, zeaxanthin is right in the bullseye, providing maximum protection where light hits most directly.
Okay, got it.
And lutein dominates that protective ring around the center. You really need both to build up the full, comprehensive optical density across the entire macula.
That makes sense.
That's why the systematic reviews, while they show modest overall increases in MPOD from supplementation, the most robust signals, the most clinically relevant ones, are when lutein is paired with zeaxanthin.
And especially, I think the sources said, when the person started with a low baseline MPOD to begin with.
Exactly. You're building the shield up where it was weakest.
So that really contextualizes the clinical data. We're not looking for some kind of miracle cure overnight, but more of a strategic, long-term buildup of a natural protective layer.
Right.
And for anyone looking at dosing, manufacturers are typically designing these products around a lutein dose of, 6 to 20 milligrams per day. That's the range you should expect to see.
That's the sweet spot for targeting macular health, yes.
Okay, so now that we get the why, the biological necessity, we have to confront the how, the supply chain challenges. The quality of that final product depends entirely on sourcing and then some pretty sophisticated engineering to get that molecule from a plant into your body.
Right.
So where does this powder even come from, and why does that matter so much?
The sourcing origin dictates, well, everything. Purity, cost, consistency. While lutein can be made synthetically, the vast majority that's used in high-quality supplements is derived from natural plant-based sources, specifically the marigold, Pegus erecta.
The marigold. Why that flour? I mean, why not spinach or kale? We always hear those are rich sources.
It really just comes down to yield and industrial efficiency. Kagesa recta has been optimized for high-volume lutein production. It offers a standardized, cost-effective source from which you can efficiently extract and purify lutein at an industrial scale.
So you just get more bang for your buck, basically.
You do. And this established supply chain means manufacturers can reliably hit the high purity levels they need for supplements. And if a brand is going for that clean label, positioning organic, non-GMO, they have to ensure total sourcing transparency, all the way back to the field where the marigolds were grown.
And what forms does it come in?
Usually you'll see marigold extracts, pure free lutein powder, or something called lutein esters, which your body has to convert.
This brings us to the core problem in formulation. You could source the most pristine marigold lutein on Earth, but if your body can't actually use it, it's just wasted money.
Absolutely.
And lutein is inherently lipophilic. It's fat-loving, right? So it doesn't dissolve in water.
Right. And your gut is a mostly watery environment.
So if you just take a pill that's a dry powder, it's facing a massive absorption hurdle.
This is where supplement formulation goes from basic chemistry to pretty sophisticated engineering. For lutein to be bioavailable, to actually get into your bloodstream and travel to the retina, its absorption has to be enhanced.
How does that work?
Standard lutein, especially in a dry powder form, it really relies on you eating dietary fats at the same time to create the little micelles needed for uptake.
And let's be honest, most people don't reliably take their supplements with a tablespoon of olive oil.
Exactly. So formulators tackle this by building advanced delivery systems right into the supplement itself. The key strategy is emulsification.
So they're pre-packaging it for you.
That's a great way to put it. They're pre-packaging the lutein, so it doesn't need external fat to be absorbed. Think of it like putting the fat in the lutein into a tiny, ready-made raft that can navigate the gut efficiently.
Okay, can you give us a quick analogy? For these advanced systems, the nanoemulsions and liposomes, what are they actually doing?
Sure. So if lutein is a traveler who hates water, the delivery system is its custom transportation vehicle. A traditional dry powder is like asking that traveler to swim across an ocean.
Not going to work very well.
Not at all. Nanoemulsions and microencapsulation. That's like building a fleet of tiny, stable, oil-filled microvehicles, sometimes using things like phospholipid complexes that completely surround the lutein.
Okay.
This process shields the lutein from getting destroyed in the stomach and basically tricks the gut into absorbing it much, much faster and more completely than it would a simple powder.
And I imagine these technologies are expensive to implement.
They are, but it's a calculated investment. It's done to maximize systemic exposure and ensure that the milligrams promised on the label actually make it to the macula to boost MPOD.
That's the crucial takeaway then. That complex ingredient list, the MCT oil, the sunflower lecithin, that mention of encapsulation, it's not just filler.
Not at all.
It is the calculated cost of making sure you actually absorb the thing you're paying for. A high-quality product is paying a premium for that delivery system.
Absolutely. And that leads us right into quality assurance, which starts long before you even add that delivery system. The foundation of quality is traceability and control. We're talking GMP-compliant facilities and a complete paper trail from the moment the marigold is harvested to the finished powder.
So you can follow it every step of the way.
Yes, and that commitment, it reduces batch variability, which is key to ensuring consistent potency for you, the consumer.
We mentioned COAs earlier, the certificate of analysis. For anyone who's really serious about the supplements they buy, this is kind of the golden ticket, right?
It really is. Third-party testing isn't just a nice-to-have, it's pivotal. A COA documents the purity, it confirms the potency on the label, and, most importantly, it verifies the absence of contaminants, like heavy metals or pesticides.
And a good brand should be able to provide that.
A science-driven brand should be able to provide that batch-specific information, or at least summary data, to the consumer. It's the difference between self-reporting and having verifiable proof.
And beyond the COA, there are specific third-party validations, these certifications.
Yes, they act as another layer of trust. Certifications like USP Verified, which guarantees label accuracy and quality manufacturing, or NSF Certified for Sport for athletes, or even just the basic organic and non-GMO status. These are all markers of a commitment to quality.
Let's be realistic, though. Getting something like a full USP verification that's incredibly expensive and time-consuming, isn't it true that a smaller but still reputable brand might not have the budget for that full certification but still make a high-quality product.
That's a fair point. And while those certifications are excellent indicators of robust systems, transparency is the ultimate equalizer. A smaller brand might not have USP, but if they're willing to share their batch-specific COAs, if they detail their Marigold supplier and clearly explain their emulsification process, that still builds significant credibility.
So you have to look the whole picture.
You look at the process, not just the stamp on the bottle. What the label must disclose, regardless of the brand size, is the per-serving lutein content, and critically, the carrier system, that lipid-based matrix or the microencapsulation details.
And any other carotenoids, like zeaxanthin.
Right. That transparency is what allows you to do a true cost-benefit analysis. You have to move beyond just calculating price per milligram.
You have to evaluate that cost against the proven quality and the stability that that delivery technology provides.
Exactly. A certified source with advanced encapsulation might cost more, but it significantly reduces the risk of you consuming a product that just won't deliver the biological outcome you're paying for.
And you mentioned stability, which is a good point. Lutein is sensitive to oxygen and light, right?
It is. So these advanced formulation techniques, they don't just improve absorption, they also protect the molecule from degrading inside the bottle. It ensures the 20 milligrams you buy today is still 20 milligrams 6 months from now.
Okay, let's talk about safety. How safe is lutein?
It has an excellent safety profile. It's naturally occurring in our diet, and at typical supplemental intakes, that's 6 to 20 milligrams a day range, it's very well tolerated. What's important to note is there's currently no formally established upper limit for lutein.
But there is that one well-known side effect, carotenoids. It sounds scary, but it's actually harmless.
Right. This happens with sustained, very high intakes over long periods. It can cause a temporary, reversible yellowing of the skin. If you start looking like you've eaten way too many carrots, that's just your body accumulating the carotenoids.
It's basically harmless proof that it's working.
It's purely cosmetic, and it goes away once you reduce your intake. As for adverse interactions, the evidence is pretty limited at standard doses.
But there are some precautions.
There are. Because it's fat-soluble, clinician guidance is always advisable if you're pregnant or lactating, or if you're on certain medications, especially lipid-lowering therapies. The risk is small, but due diligence is always recommended.
Okay, so as we start to wrap up and look ahead, the lutein market isn't exactly standing still. The sources point to 3 big trends defining how these supplements are being approached in 2024 and 2025. The first one is a relentless competition in bioavailability. It's a race to adopt those advanced nanoemulsions and microencapsulation technologies.
It's a race to prove who can deliver the lutein most efficiently to the macula.
The second trend is this massive push for clean label credentials.
Oh, absolutely. Consumers are demanding greater transparency about the source, insisting on third-party validated organic, non-GMO, and vegan status. It's moving beyond just efficacy to align with broader wellness and ethical values.
And the third major shift is the sophistication of co-formulations. We're moving past simple lutein pills and more toward these multi-carotenoid blends that really mirror the synergy we see in the research.
Right. Lutein, the zeaxanthin, and other supporting antioxidants, all designed to maximize that biological response.
So the future of quality, then, it seems like it's built entirely on this idea of verifiable trust. We're seeing a rising demand for accessible labeling and direct consumer access to those COAs.
Which forces brands to build that trust through traceable, responsible sourcing that can actually back up their claims.
So, to sum this all up, we've charted the entire life cycle of lutein. We've gone from its origin in a marigold flower, we've mapped its vital function as an optical filter supporting MPOD, and we've analyzed the sophisticated engineering it takes to make it bioavailable in a capsule.
A long journey.
A long journey. And you now know that true quality assessment means looking past the simple milligram count and really scrutinizing the delivery system and those quality certifications.
And that brings us to our final thought for you to explore as you're navigating the health aisle. When you evaluate your next product, don't just ask if the price is low.
Right.
Ask whether the cost per milligram adequately accounts for the immense added value of the advanced delivery technology, that nanoemulsion or that phospholipid complex that ensures the lutein actually survives the digestive tract and successfully travels to your macula.
Because that investment in technology versus just a cheap dry powder.
That is the fundamental difference between an effective product and, well, a wasted effort.
Something critical to think about when you're assessing the real efficacy of your supplements. We'll catch you next time for the next deep dive.